Why start developing your project with ChatGPT or Google Gemini? First, ChatGPT and Google Gemini are available in many countries and regions. Second, they offer interaction with audio, video, images, and different types of documents. And both platforms offer a playground, a special space for developers to interact, train models, test configurations, and adjust settings. But here's another interesting point. Google Gemini offers 1 million tokens for free. And with this, you can offer free demos or services for your application. On the other hand, ChatGPT has a significant advantage because many providers use the same style of code for interacting with the models. This means that by learning to work with one API, you are already learning to work with multiple providers. But before we can start coding, we need to get our access key. And during the video, I'll include an extra tip that you don't want to miss. First, let's get the Google Gemini access key. For that, visit Google AI Studio, click on the Sign In button, and log into your Gmail account. After signing in, you will be redirected to the playground. Just click on Get API Key, accept all the terms, and then just click the button to generate your access key. Copy your key and put it in a secure place, and don't share it with anyone. Now that you have your keys, you can access the playground. There, you will find code snippets, explore different options, and adjust parameters. A future video will dive deeper into how to use the playground effectively. For now, focus on testing your prompts, as I explained in the previous video, because prompts are the heart of every AI application. To get the ChatGPT API key, you need to go to OpenAI documentation, log in, or create an account. Then you will be redirected to the documentation. Click on Dashboard, APIs. But before you can generate any key, you will need to verify a phone number. And you can set your key if it is for personal use or for a service account like a backend or SaaS service. You can also set the key for different access levels, including read-only access. I'm going to set it for personal use and use the default project. Then just copy your key and remember to keep it secure. Don't share it with anybody. But before you can actually use the key, you will need to add a minimum credit of $5 to your account. Other providers will also ask you to include your credit card information, except Google Gemini, which gets you started for free. Once you get your key, you will have access to the playground. And let me repeat, the playground is your main place to test and build your app. You can adjust different settings, try out various models, and fine-tune configurations. I recommend starting with GPT-4o Mini. Keep in mind that the models you can use might depend on your access limit. If we use the example of an app that generates resumes automatically, we can set the AI behavior in the system method. We also have the option to enhance our prompt. Just paste your example prompt and then click on the code button. This will generate a code snippet that covers about 30 to 40% of your application. And you can switch the code format between JavaScript or Python. You can follow the exact same steps in Google AI Studio. The only difference is that the code can be generated in more programming languages. Now let's work with a code snippet to better understand how to interact with the ChatGPT model. First, open your code editor and make sure you have Node.js installed on your computer. Create a folder to hold all ChatGPT configurations. Then, run the command npm init y. This will create a package.json file to install your dependency. Next, head back to your terminal and run npm install openai.env. Now head to the package.json file and do two things. 1. Define the type as module so we can use modern JavaScript syntax. 2. In the script section, add a start script with the command start nodeindex.js. Then create an index.js file in your ChatGPT folder. Now, head back to the playground, copy the code snippet, and paste it into your index.js file. Before running the code, we need to configure our secret key. Import and call the config function from .env at the top of the index.js file. Then, inside your project folder, create a .env file and add the following variable with your access key information. Make sure you have credits in your OpenAI account to use the API properly. Head back to the index file and add a console log to display the model response. Now that everything is set up, open your terminal and run npm start. If everything is set up correctly, you should see the AI response in your terminal. Now, let's break down the key things you need to know. First, we have the model. Depending on your access level, you can pick from different models. Some models are lightweight and quick. Others are more powerful, but require higher access. Next, there is the message array. This one is super important. Think of it like the model's memory. It holds the entire conversation history. And if you want the AI to remember context, you need to pass all previous interactions in this array. Inside this array are the messages or prompts that we pass to interact with the model. Each message is an object, and here's how it works. The first key you will see is the role. This defines who is speaking, whether it's the user or the model. But the first message usually has the role of system, and the system message is where we set the AI's behavior. For example, you can tell it to act like a product developer or a marketing expert. Now keep in mind that some newer models, like o1, o3, and their mini versions, don't use the system message anymore. The next key is the content. This can either be a simple text string or an array of objects. For the user, it's basically the task or prompt you're giving to the AI. And for the AI, it's the response it generates. You can even specify what type of content passing, whether it's plain text, a URL, or another format. We'll dive deeper into this in future videos. For now, just remember, the content is your prompt or the AI's response. In this example, I'm changing the AI's behavior to tell jokes about programming. I'll pass a prompt that says, I'm a programmer who knows JavaScript and Python, and see what happens. And that's how you do a basic setup to interact with the ChatGPT model. Pretty simple, right? To continue with the Gemini setup, we're going to repeat some of the previous steps. First, initialize your Node.js project by running npm init-y. Next, we need to install .tenviv and the Google Generative AI package. Now, open your package.json file. In the script section, add a start script with the command start node-index.js. Next, inside your Gemini project folder, create a new file called index.js. Now go back to Google AI Studio. Copy the provided code snippet and paste it into your index.js file. Now, here's something important to keep in mind. Gemini and ChatGPT use different configurations. OpenAI provides a module-based JavaScript setup. Meanwhile, Google uses CommonJS. The real difference is in how they interact with their models. For example, I can easily transform this code into modern JavaScript by doing two things. First, changing the import statement. Second, adding a type field in package.json to use ES modules. Now we need to configure our environment variables. At the top of your index.js file, import and call the config function from .env. Then, in your project folder, create a new file called. Inside this file, add a new Gemini API key variable and paste in your access key information. Now, I made a small mistake here. We need to go back to our index.js file and update the Gemini import statement by adding curly brackets. With everything set up, let's head back to the terminal. Run the following command, npm install. Now, once you see the response in your terminal, you'll know that your application is successfully interacting with the Google AI model. Now, let's break the code down step by step. First, we need to initialize the model by selecting the specific Gemini model we're going to use. We can also pass instructions to configure the AI's behavior. One key part of this setup is the generation config object. This object contains optional parameters that let us control how creative the AI's output will be. It also allows us to set limits for the maximum input and output length of the response. But we'll explore these settings in more detail in future videos. Now, this next line of code is where the real magic happens. This is where we start a new chat session with the Gemini model. This session takes two objects as inputs. One, the generation config, which defines the AI's output behavior. Two, the history array, which holds the complete conversation with Gemini. Each entry inside this array is an object with two properties. The role. This indicates who is speaking, either the user or the model. The content. This contains the actual message or prompt. This structure helps Gemini remember the conversation and respond with context. Before we continue with other topics and provider-specific details, we need to develop our own application. So, in the next video, we will build 3 applications designed with the model I'm training. And remember, if you want to learn how to create your own AI applications, subscribe to my channel and follow me on social media.